Excited to come on. We have hit 1,000 subscribers, so I'd come on live and do a little talk on the shift that's necessary at adolescence that many parents aren't aware of, and it just doesn't get discussed enough. So, what I'm going to be covering is why this shift is necessary with our teens, what it looks like, why it's hard to do, and what you gain if you can successfully make this shift with your teen. So, if you aren't subscribed yet, please hit subscribe because it helps more parents get access to this resource. So, I've been talking to a bunch of parents, and I will hear stories like, man, I don't know what happened to my docile child. We used to get along. She used to be my little buddy. I don't know what happened to my son. He doesn't talk to me about stuff anymore. Now he just snaps at me. I don't know what's happened to my teen. They've turned into a mean girl. And these problems come up and get described to me by parents who have worked really, really hard to use a collaborative model with their kids up until now with their teenage years. And so we're expecting, well, we did all these gentle parenting things so that we'd have this easy time at adolescence. When the truth of the matter is, we do those gentle parenting principled approaches to parenting, not because we're trying to make adolescence just be an easy thing, but because adolescence is the challenge that it is. And that is what creates then the necessity for um, this shift. Okay, so one thing to start to understand is that human beings by nature desire to be self-determining. What we will do in the name of feeling some sense of control, and I'm just talking about the adult version of our species. So if you take into consideration then where our kids are when they hit their adolescence, they are at the beginning of starting to really form their sense of who they are. And in that process, they become very prone to then really wanting to venture out and differentiate from what is familiar to them. And so, for better or for worse, hey, Kelly, for better or for worse, what happens is we become, as their parents, the first prototypical, not me. And it is up against us that they start to, thanks, Kelly, for the like. It's up to us to start to help them understand um, a lot of the emotion regulation challenges that they need to start to face. All right, so the political events of the last couple of weeks have really highlighted for me the importance of talking about what our teens are needing from us. Because in today's day and age, it's just been a free for all. And let's be clear, parents of teens represent a lonely outpost in today's day and age where we represent pretty much the only institution that is trying to teach our teens about how limits are a necessary thing. Understand everywhere else socioculturally, we're being told that limitlessness is the ideal. How fast can you get how fast can you get the product overnight? And we want things immediately. And yet, for our teens, we are the walking no. We are the ones who are always saying, well, that might be fun, but that might not be the best idea. And so as a result, at adolescence comes this natural flashpoint where as teens are starting to expand, their world is expanding and they're really developing their sense of self, they're not finding what we have to say super encouraging, and what they are inclined to do actually is see a lot of it as criticism. So if you look at the research they've done with teens and people of all different ages, they show different populations pictures of faces that are neutral. all ages, races, genders. And teens, overwhelmingly more than any other age group, perceived negativity where there was none. So, what we can know about our teens is they are prone to perceiving criticism and judgment, even when we're being neutral, which is why it is very easy for them to get triggered. The other thing that you need to understand about why it is easy for teens to get triggered is that their emotional processing center at adolescence grows to its full size. It is at its adult capacity. The part that isn't at its adult capacity is the impulse control, the being able to decipher, well, what do these feelings tell me about what matters to me? And that piece teens are still working on. They're not going to have that part of their brain fully formed until their mid to late 20s. So as a result, their decision making, their ability to do things that are not immediately gratifying in order to reach a higher level goal, those things are still in development. So we're going to see a lot of clunkiness. Hey, Ethan. Um, so, what does the shift look like? It goes from, because parents typically go marching into their teens, adolescents, thinking, great, we had all this partnership in the beginning, and now it's just going to continue. And now we're going to get to work on the big picture things that I've always wanted to help my kids come to terms with, and what college to go to, or what trade to go into, or any of these things, these life skills that so many parents are ready to equip their teens with. And parents find that teens want nothing to do with hearing any of it. And parents will get very hopeless. And we can start dreading our experience of parenting itself. And I had one mother say to me, she got into such a place of despair. She wrote a poem that said, my son doesn't love me anymore. I mean, this stuff gets super, super intense. If we can start by not taking personally their movements towards independence, that gives you the first entry point for true connection at the point of our kids' adolescence. If you can be the biggest champion of your teens' growing autonomy, you will always have influence with them. The minute they feel like you have an investment in trying to inhibit or slow down their movement towards autonomy, you are going to be on the opposing side. So that is the big picture that you need to keep in mind. We need young adults and teens and young adults, in order for them to move towards being able to launch, they need to get more comfortable making decisions. They need to get more comfortable doing things that are not immediately gratifying to do, but you do them anyways, because doing a bunch of that gets you to a place where you can do more of what you love. Too much now, our kids are in a position where they see a picture that looks bleak. Too much now, they hear the rhetoric of how there aren't options. We need to empower our kids to become problem solvers and to encourage them to start becoming the solution to the many, many problems that they see in the world that can help move our society forward. We have empowered this generation to know what their feelings are. That was revolutionary. To be able to say to our kids, you know what, you have an inner world and you have feelings. And we know that those feelings are automatic because they're hardwired into us. They help mobilize us for action. So when we're scared of something, if we are hiking and we run across a bear, we don't have to think about running because our emotions are automatic. They prime us to act. We run if we're scared. Because we understand these things, that's what then allows our kids to avoid us saying, God, you're so sensitive. God, why are you being such a brat? Because we understand that their feelings are just their feelings. Where we are working with our kids is then the choices and the actions they engage in as a result of those feelings. For a lot of kids, and honestly, for a lot of adults, Being able to control and modulate one's behavior in the face of intense emotions is incredibly tough. Because honestly, for most of us, what we learned emotion regulation to be was to just deny what your feelings were and suck it up and do what needed to be done. That's not where we're trying to get our teens. Where we're trying to get our teens is, yeah, what you're seeing and what you're experiencing is painful. Yeah, it sucks to have limits. It sucks to have expectations that people have of you now. But what's cool, and this is where we have to start encouraging them, is that good things happen when you take more responsibility for yourself. So, how do those good things happen? In a lot of ways, we start opening up elements of autonomy for our kids. So, for instance, driving is something that is really important to a lot of teens. There is a lot that parents, in terms of expectations, that parents can start layering onto that future dream that a teen has to drive, so that teens are always, we're always wanting them to meet us halfway with increased responsibility. So, for instance, if they want to be able to drive, then there are some basic skills that lead up to that. They need to be able to be comfortable with leaving their location on. They need to be comfortable with being able to stay in communication about where they are and when they're coming home. They need to be able to honor curfew. Those kinds of things you start seeing at 12, 13, 14, 15, and you start connecting the dots for them around how, why, yeah, this stuff is important, how substance use abstinence is important because it can apply to how safety is with operating a vehicle, how school performance can affect your insurance premium. These basic things are what our teens are needing connection to. Where parents go wrong is that we want so much for our kids, and there's so much that many of us are able to provide our kids, that we never anticipated them arguing with us. And so it gets so frustrating for parents who have so much love and so much that they want to give and way they want to love. And it is exactly at adolescence that our kids' love language changes. And the way they feel safety with us is not by us giving them everything. It is not by us running ahead of them and trying to protect them from every painful thing, because what adolescence is about is going out and seeing what the real world says compared to everything that they learned from their family and all of what happened for the first half of life. And so as they go out into the world, if we're running ahead and we're doing things for them and they haven't even asked us, okay, so here's one way you can diagnose really easily if the balance is off and you haven't made the shift. Are you doing things for your teen before they even ask you? Are you finding that your teen isn't grateful for the things that you do? My guess is that if your teen is lacking in gratitude, 9 times out of 10, a lot of the reason that that is happening is because they are being given things before they even realize it's a need. They're being given things before they even get to the mental space to say, hey, I need something. I need help from my parents. Mom and dad, can you help me? That cognitive move needs to happen for gratitude to exist. If someone is getting things and they don't even realize that this is stuff that's important to them and that they don't even have the hunger for it, they can't develop the gratitude for it. Now, this is not to say we need to go back to days of depriving our children. No. But this is to say, please don't get so codependent with your kids that they don't even know what their own needs are. Because that is a surefire ingredient to a teen and young adult who is not going to be able to launch. Fundamental to a teen launching into adulthood is them getting better and better at knowing what they want, what they feel, and how to work with that in the world to actually achieve the things that they want. It is so challenging. So the shift would be, instead of you noticing, oh, your son left his cleats at home and you running them to the high school for practice, I actually encourage parents, don't do that. Please don't do that. Let your teen have the experience of what it was like to go without that thing, because that is the only way they're going to get the data to adjust course and say, God, I have to really remember that. Or they have to realize, to be able to then call and say, Mom, Dad, will you drop my cleats off? Because if they have to ask the question, then you've got them a little bit closer to being able to realize, wow, Mom and Dad just did a favor for me. These are the small shifts. And from the outside, it feels like it's not that big of a shift or difference from what you were already doing, or it seems so minuscule, really, like slowing things down to actually give your kids the chance to ask for what they want. It's hard for parents to understand that that difference alone is difference enough to make a difference. So try that, because what many parents find is the stuff they're bending over backwards to do, their teens didn't really care about that much anyways. I am reminded of a quote by Dolly Parton that a parent shared with me early in our work together. He said that Dolly Parton said, it takes a lot of money to look this cheap. And so it goes for parenting teens. It looks a lot on the outside like parents doing less. It looks a lot on the outside like parents not caring if their teens make mistakes. But the reality is, it is a ton of effort that goes into mindfully taking a step back and giving our teens the space. Because when we do that, it doesn't communicate to our teens, well, we don't care what happens to you. What it communicates to our teens and what they get from us is, oh, I guess I can solve this problem. Oh, I guess problems happen in life. And if parents can stay steady enough through that, teens get this message of, I'm capable enough to do this. That internalized belief in capacity is also what helps them launch. So the shift that parents need to make is one from running ahead and trying to make every pain go away and trying to bring the world on a platter like you were your kid's concierge to the world, and moving more towards being a consultant to them, where you're almost walking and stepping to the side. You're to the side of them and you're reminding them of where the limits are. They're not going to like where the limits are. We need you home by 10:30. That sucks. Yeah, we know it sucks. And that's what we need from our end to feel comfortable. Through those kinds of interactions, they're learning interpersonal effectiveness. They're watching us model to them self-respect, the ability to regulate our emotions while we communicate what our priorities are, our ability to stay in control of our emotions even when there's a difference of opinion. Oftentimes parents will say, oh, my kids don't respect me. They're so disrespectful. 90% of the time, expressions of disrespect are really a lack of impulse control. Hey, hello from Winnipeg. Hello from New York. Thank you for joining. It is an impulse control issue. So parents are almost giving too much credit to their teens when they say, well, they're intentionally freezing me out. Sometimes they are, and that's its own dynamic. But I'm thinking of those kids who are just transitioning into just being really much more interested in their friends and their social group than they are family. and kids who are like, really, do I have to spend time with the family? And parents can get really hurt by that. That's not personal. When our kids hit adolescence, everything on the outside gets really interesting, gets really exciting. We are so boring and we are so what they're used to. And it is a time for us to be excited for them because they're getting ready to discover and experience things, both positive and negative. And that's the harrowing part. The older our kids get, the more impossible it gets for us to protect them from the painful things in life. Because for better or for worse, life involves pain. Pain is an important source of data for human beings. Can you imagine if we didn't have the capacity to feel pain in our physical body, what kind of shape we would be in, how many accidents we would be prone to? Pain is an important signal. Parents are there to walk beside their teens, to be there with them so they are not alone in their pain. The goal is not to make the pain go away, because only the teen can do that for themselves. The goal is to be with them and to reassure them in their strength, in how this is a human experience, not just something specific to them or to their group or to their race or to their sexual orientation, that it is a human experience to feel pain. And that meaning can be made of it, that priorities can be made and clarified in the face of it, that pain teaches us important things. These are the messages, the big picture messages that matter so much more than what college they get into, what trade they get into, whether they get a 4.0, whether all of those things, those achievements that we are so used to thinking of. When adolescence is such a bigger task of really coming into understanding what it means to be a human being. And our kids are in a tough position. Our world has never been as sort of precarious and up in the air as it is today. And in an environment where it is so hard for people to discuss differences of opinion in civility or in a way that can be productive, we have to help our kids understand that for better or for worse, humanity, we're all stuck with each other. I'm in the US, so for folks in the US, we're all stuck with each other. And as much as there's all this divide, we're going to have to figure out sooner or later how we're all going to live with each other. And our kids are part of that. It is the same thing when our kids say, well, we don't want to spend time with you. You're lame. Well, yeah, I know it's not your first choice, but our expectation is once a week, you hang out with us. Once a weekend, we do one family outing. And yeah, it's super lame. We get that it's not your first choice. And we really appreciate you being there. It's allowing them their feeling, allowing them to say, yeah, you're not my first choice. And I'm doing this because you said this is what we're doing. Making room for all of it. That's the piece. That's what we're going for. What do you get? You get a stronger partnership with your teen. You get a teen who feels a greater sense of mastery and confidence in themselves, and get them ready to launch. And most importantly, you stop feeling so miserable and hopeless about what this period of adolescence is. So, if you're wanting any help with this, click on the link in the profile in my account page. Schedule a free 30-minute consult. I would love to talk with you more about what's going on for you. I'm thrilled that you could be part of this live. Thank you for joining, and I will be back with you guys soon.